Now we'll look at step 2 of analyzing the data, exploring the data. In this video, we'll look at sections A through C, deciding your focus, determining your sample size, and coding the qualitative data. Our focus will primarily be on qualitative data, and we'll save part D, calculating the quantitative data, for the next video. Deciding your focus. Only analyze what you are looking for. In our example, one of the teacher's desired outcomes is for students' reading comprehension to improve. Therefore, she will only look at the test questions that measure reading comprehension. For the desired outcome of students' use of reading strategies, she will focus on reading strategies used by the students as seen in her data, namely in her student observations, interviews, and checklists. Determining your sample size. Remember, you don't need to include all data that you've collected. Make sure to include a range of ability levels in the sample of your data. In our example, again, without looking at the names, the teacher chose high, mid, and low-performing students to include in the analysis. Even so, she included all students in the activities she conducted as part of her research. Coding the qualitative data. Remember, qualitative data includes items such as interviews, which are more descriptive and don't have numerical values. So what is coding? Coding is a way to index the relevant information you've collected in your data so that you can draw conclusions from your research. There are many different ways to go about coding qualitative data. This is just one basic way that you can use to do it. For your reference, please see handout 4.2, which is a note-taking handout that might help you as you're coding your qualitative data. You can find handout 4.2 on Blackboard. Step 1 is to select one type of qualitative data collection you conducted. Step 2 is to read through the data and create broad categories for the information you found. Step 3 is to divide those broad categories into more specific items. And then step 4, after you've done the coding, note the patterns and themes you've found. And finally, step 5, note quotations you'd like to use in the report to represent the patterns or themes you've found. Now we'll look at these steps in more detail. Step 1 is to select one type of qualitative data collection you conducted. Our example teacher kept a teaching journal throughout her action research. Step 2 is to read through the data and create broad categories for the information you found. Reading through her journal, our example teacher noticed two main themes she wrote about: her feelings about the classroom experience and the expectations of the students. For step 3, divide those broad categories into more specific items or themes. So next, our example teacher looked back in her journal for subcategories. She noticed 3 themes in her journal writings whenever she wrote about her feelings: disappointment, frustration, uselessness. Under student expectations, she noticed 2 themes: language abilities and level of participation. It may be helpful to create a system to code and label your data. Some ideas for doing this are here. You could make notes in the margins, use different colored highlighters to mark each subcategory in the text, or if you have digital documents, making a word cloud would be very helpful. Try going to wordclouds.com, which will give you an actual count per word as well. After you've done the coding, note the patterns and the themes you found. And finally, step 5, note quotations you'd like to use in the report to represent the patterns or themes you found. The following 5 slides are examples from ASEAN Teachers Action Research projects, and we'll take some time to look through them. The first example is from a teacher who was doing action research on micro-teaching and giving feedback. As you look through this slide, note the useful combination of numbers and student quotes. Our second example comes from the same teacher. As you look through this slide, note that it's okay and necessary to share information that doesn't support the research. You want to keep track of this too. For example 3, we're looking at a different teacher's action research. Note that in this slide, we're not looking at the data, but rather the themes this teacher found in his research. This teacher was doing action research on using a game in the classroom. Example 4 involves another teacher who was conducting action research on listening activities and motivation. Here are some themes this teacher saw in her classroom. And finally, for our 5th example, the same teacher from the previous slide is also reporting the parts that didn't go as well. That finishes this video on the qualitative data. In our next video, we'll begin looking at quantitative data. Thank you.